Hello everyone, and yes, you are seeing correctly, there is 60 cards, there is grass. I can only apologize. So what we're going to be doing is exploring how the Ishizu cards have impacted zombies. This is one of the more requested ones. I really did try my best to make this work at 40 cards. I really did, right? You're going to see some of the replays we're going to look at are going to be the 40 card version. It's not good enough. It really isn't. And even this 60 card version, I just don't feel like even is all that. And that's not from like a this deck can't do anything perspective. This deck can definitely do stuff, right? It's really, really cool. It can definitely set a lot of things up. So for zombie lovers out there, this is absolutely going to be, I think, one of the better ways, if not the best way of playing it. The main reason I'm somewhat underwhelmed with this deck is that it doesn't perform nearly as well as some of the other P.U.N.K Ishizu mixed decks. And again, I'm a little bit biased when I say this, but I am comparing it subconsciously to Thunder Dragons. It just doesn't hold a candle to Thunder Dragons, in my opinion. But for those who maybe don't like the Thunder Dragons, or for those who are just diehard zombie fans, this is definitely going to be one of the better ways of playing it. We're playing it, of course, with that grass look screener. To try and make that more consistent, we're playing Left Arm Offering, which I'm still sort of on the fence about. But you play enough dead-ish cards in your deck where you can usually whittle it down to make this card usable. Grab your grass and get milling your deck, so that's pretty good. We're also playing a bit of a danger engine as well. We got a couple Mothman, we've got some Nessie, Jackalope, we've got the Thunderbird. We're playing this sort of specific lineup just because they are the ones that best sort of adhere with the strategy. Jackalope and Nessie, of course, are two of the best dangers, full stop, being able to recycle, special summon, add value. Mothman's really cool because not only is it a level 4, which is awesome, it helps you go into your Dweller, helps you go into other plays as well. Its level is great. It also has that built-in Dark World dealing effect, right? Where you draw a card and then discard a card. That is phenomenal alongside your Kelbeck and Agito, because if you discard these as well as sending them from the deck to the graveyard, it also works if you discard them, then their effects will activate to mill a bunch of cards. So Mothman's really good for that. Its level's good, its effect is good, awesome. And lastly, we've got Thunderbird. Thunderbird, of course, not only can it pop back row cards, it is also a level 8, which is the main reason we're playing it. It being level 8 means we can use it for our Hope Harbinger, our number 90, our Zombie Vampire, whatever we need at the time in terms of our level 8 facilities. We're maxing out as much as we can on the usable punks, the good punks, as much as we can, because that's what's going to be what starts the entire deck. Either that or grass and Left Arm Offering. That's what gets the whole thing started, and hopefully with this amount of resources we're not going to draw into our bricks as often, and we're going to be having a lot more usable resources. So it did work out really well. We've got some sort of mixed gameplay, sort of showing some of the 40 cards, some of the 60 cards, some of the good plays, some of the bad plays. You're going to get a good idea of generally how the deck kind of works. The biggest reason I'm not a huge fan of it is that as much as the Ishizu cards have helped this deck, they're also one of the biggest counters to it, because then being able to return your cards off of things like Medora and Keldo, as well as being able to banish your cards off of Call by the Grave, and generally speaking control the flow of the graveyard, is making it very, very hard for this deck to continue to function as it wants to. But again, you can reach whatever conclusion you want to on your own. This is just an idea as how to test it. I am going to be going through this version of the deck at the end of the video for a quick profile, so if you want to stick around for the detailed deck breakdown at the end, by all means. But first of all, we are going to watch some gameplay, so if this is your first time on the channel, or if you're maybe just someone who has been coming back but has yet to subscribe, I would ask you to do so. It doesn't cost you anything, doesn't do anything negative, you get to see notifications of videos coming out, everybody wins, you know, it helps you boy, why not? And with that, let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty, getting into the first game here. Now, as you can see, this is a 40 card version of the deck, or sorry, 50 cards. We were gradually working our way up. So this one's slightly different, but it does show off the P.U.N.K combo, which is what I want to show off here. So we do Ogre Dance to grab ourselves the Yaman. The Yaman's going to grab us. Normally it would grab you Foxy Toon. We already had a Foxy Toon though, so it's fine. Functionally speaking, it doesn't matter. If you didn't have another P.U.N.K, instead of grabbing Deer Note, you would just grab Foxy Toon. Foxy Toon discard 1 to summon out Deer Note directly from the deck. So functionally speaking, it makes zero difference which you do first. He does hit us with the Max C here. Luckily, we do have an Ash Blossom to counter that, so that is just fine. And you'll notice even from this hand alone, like this hand is almost entirely P.U.N.K, right? There's no trace of zombies or dangers or anything like that in here, which is part of why we changed it up. We We just weren't seeing enough of what the deck is actually good at in order to justify running it the way we were running it. We might as well just be running P.U.N.K. But either way, we're going to go into our Chaos Ruler here, Deer Note triggering to resummon the Foxy Tune from the graveyard, the Chaotic Magical Dragon, checking the top 5 cards of the deck, sending to the graveyard. We hit both Kelbeck and Agito, which is awesome. We're going to add Ballardrock to hand, which was a bit of a misplay. Actually, we definitely should have just let this go to the grave. Kelbeck and Agito, though, we're both going to activate to mill an additional 10 cards. That means 15 cards from the deck to the graveyard. Now we're going into the Zombie Vampire, which would mill an additional 4. That means 19 cards from the deck to the graveyard. We hit a Ballardrock, which we're now going to resummon. Chaos Ruler is going to resummon itself from the graveyard as well. That's going to open up our field for a rank 8 Exceed. Now we're going to be going into the Hope Harbinger, number 38, which is a very, very powerful monster. Mizuki then banishing itself from the graveyard, reviving Unizombie, and this is where things would get wild, but I'm pretty sure our opponent doesn't stick around. Yep. They don't stick around very much longer. So basically we pitch the Banshee. Banshee grabs us Zombie World. Then we can start reviving our Ballardrock every single turn. We go for Vampire Sucker. We just have crazy, crazy plays. So I wanted that to show off the P.U.N.K combo, how P.U.N.K works into zombies, and how Ishizu works into zombies. You saw the amount of cards we were sending from our deck to the graveyard there. 19 cards. 20 if you count the Unizombie. We sent half of our deck to the graveyard. And there you go, that is off of one card. That is off of an Ogre Dance. That is off of Xiamen. That is off of E-Tele. That is off of any of those cards by themselves. That's it. That's all it takes. Anyway, let's get into game number 2. Alrighty, looking at this hand here, this hand is a little bit different. We're going up against Exo Sisters, though. I wanted to show off this matchup because this is brutal. I wanted to talk about Exo Sisters briefly as well. We recently made a video on them, and Exo Sisters are only going to get better. They're going to get better and better and better and better. They do not lose to the Ishizu support. They do not, they're not negatively impacted by it in any significant way. If anything, the Ishizu support being so popular or being so powerful is going to assist this deck in its viability. So you're going to be seeing a lot more Exo Sisters. At the time of recording, they are tier 3. And they're only going to get better. Going into Magnifica here, this is basically the full board setup for Exo Sisters. They're going to make life very, very difficult for us here. Drawing into both Agito and Kelbeck is not a fantastic start. We're going to go E-Tele here for our Xiamen. Xiamen then grabbing us a Foxy Tune. Now, Foxy Tune's going to be able to pitch to the graveyard the Agito. Agito then triggering to mill a bunch of cards, which is pretty good. Now, Kelbeck is going to try and return Magnifica from the field back to the extra deck, but at this stage, he's now going to trigger off the Magnifica's effects. We're going to basically banish one of our monsters, as well as tag itself out to summon Mikalis on top of it. So that means the Mikalis is here. Kelbeck does get summoned, but it doesn't do anything. We normal summon Unizombie. That was our last remaining play, and at this stage, we had no plays left. We were going to lose, so we decided, you know what? Exo Sisters ain't it. And they're going to be a problem. I wanted to show that off as an example of one of the decks that are just going to completely counter deck you. And that's just the unfortunate truth of the matter. They're just going to counter deck you. Unfortunate, but such is life. Let's get into game 3. Alrighty, getting into game 3 here. We've got a bit of an interesting hand here. We've got the E-Tele. As far as we're at yet, this is a 60 card deck here. Showing off that you don't need grass to make the deck playable. Bringing out our full P.U.N.K setup here. We're going to ditch Mudora to summon Danger Nessie as well. Danger Nessie being a level 7 opens us up to things like the, what do you call it? Baron de Fleur and such from the extra deck coming out a lot easier. He's going to bounce our Deer Note back to the hand, but that is totally fine because we've yet to use the effect of Xiamen or Deer Note, so we can actually just add up the Ogre Dance to discard off of Deer Note to summon itself right back out. Now we're going to Synchro Summon into Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. Chaos Ruler then is going to pitch 5 cards from the top of the deck to the graveyard, while our Deer Note is going to revive the Ogre Dance that we just sent to the grave. We also had the option to revive Xiamen for Baron de Fleur, but we figured we're probably going to get the resources we need for that momentarily. So we had a couple of really good sends there. We're going to grab Unizombie out to our hand. Banshee then banishing itself from the graveyard to play Zombie World. That's going to massively open up a lot of our deck here. We're going to go into the Zombie Vampire. Zombie Vampire ditching an additional 4 cards from the top of either player's deck to the graveyard, resummoning the Ballardrock from among them. However, we did also send Agito. Agito then is going to actually trigger the Ballardrock's effect to banish resources from our opponent. So we're going to banish the Adamancipator Researcher. Our opponent also playing a 60 card deck. They're loving this. They also get to mill a bunch of their cards. So we send Kelbeck, sending another 5 cards. Then we send Glow Up Bloom, which is going to banish itself. Another Tackle Crusader here happening for our opponent. Tries to destroy our zombie world. Absolutely not. Utilizing the full power of the Doom King Ballardrock to banish a monster from the grave and negate the Tackle Crusader, while Glow Up Bloom grabs us the Chang Shi. Now at this point we were running really low on the counter, but it doesn't matter, we get hit with Nibiru. It's really unfortunate, but at the same time the amount of resources that we have in our graveyard is incredible, and our opponent is also somewhat limited in terms of the plays that they can make because their monsters are being changed to zombies. Ballardrock is going to attempt to make its way back here. He is unfortunately going to be using the Keldo. Again, this is exactly what I mean. The graveyard support for these decks, the Keldo and the Medora, are going to make your life hell trying to play zombies. They're going to go Analyzer. Analyzer is going to reveal the top 4 of their deck. Do they hit anything? They do not. They're simply going to now link off into Asua, the Earth Charmer. Asua then gets to revive one of our monsters. They're going to grab our Xiamen. Xiamen, could they have used Xiamen's effect? Am I wrong? Target an Earth monster, special summon it to this zone. Yeah, they could have used Xiamen's effect. They are playing punks. I don't know why they wouldn't have done so, but either way, they're going to go Unicorn. Unicorn discarding a card to target the zombie world and bouncing it back to the deck for some reason. Milling the top 5 cards of both players' decks. Agito doing the same thing from our side. Then the Xeno Guitar is going to try and activate from him. I dare say he was probably trying to go in the access code talker or something. But either way, we're going to be using our Keldo to reduce his plays here with that Xeno Guitar. Not a chance. Shuffling him back into the deck and ending his turn. So I'm not entirely sure what our opponent's game plan there was, but at the end of the day, we simply swing with 12,000 attack for exactly 10k lethal. So that was a good demonstration, not only of the power and the combos of everything, but also how the Ishizu support works against zombies as much as helping it, right? So I wanted that match not only to be a good demonstration of combos, but also to show that interaction for support. Let's get into our final game. Alrighty, getting into the this game here. This is a bit of a longer one. We're going to go Xiamen here. Xiamen grabbing our Foxy Toon. Foxy Toon, and we figure we've sort of got everything we need. We're going to ditch Nessie. We definitely should have ditched Keldo there, in hindsight, 100%. That was a bit of a misplay, but not a massive deal. We're going to go our Magical Dragon, followed by Deer Note. We're going up against Labyrinth, which I initially thought, you know, easy dubs. Labyrinth really aren't all that scary, so we're just going to have to see what happens here. They're going to activate their field spell, Face Down. We're going to use Foxy Toon. Foxy Toon making its way back here. We're going to check the top 5 of our deck, adding one of them from the deck to the hand. We hit a Kelbeck, which is awesome. Adding a Unizombie to hand, which is great. Kelbeck then milling an additional 5 cards from both players' decks. We're going to trigger off the Thunderbird, ditching the Maxi, which is a decent ditch. It's not that good against these guys. We are going to go Left Arm Offering, grabbing that Grass Look Screener. We're going to use that Grass Look Screener. We're going to pitch 19 cards from the top of our deck to the graveyard. Of course, among them was the Banshee, banishing herself for the zombie world. Now we're going to use Medora's effect. Medora's going to banish itself to add Glow Up Bloom, Zombie World, and a Kelbeck back into our deck. We want to recycle the Zombie World and the Glow Up Bloom. We didn't want to use it too early because it locks us out of summoning anything that isn't a zombie. We're going to bring the Ogre Dance back to the field, triggering off Agito to send another 5 cards. Then the Chaos Ruler activates, bringing itself back to the field. That is fine. We've got a bunch of level 8s. We're going to link 2 off into the Vampire Sucker here. Now we're going to go into number 90. Number 90 gives us a monster negate. We are actually going to revive a monster back to our opponent's side of the field. We figure that, again, it's not going to be that useful to them given what their deck is. Unfortunately, we draw in the Ballardrock. And the big thing there is, among all of the cards that we milled, and this is one of the big issues that I have with zombies, all of those cards we milled, all of them here, right? Look at all these cards. No Mizuki, no Ballardrock, right? Out of all of those cards, no Ballardrock, no Mizuki. So that really inhibits the amount of power that the deck has, and it's just down to that. Sometimes you're simply going to get unlucky. We sent, what? How many cards? We've got 22 cards left in deck. We're running a 60 card deck. That is 38 cards are currently in play. Not a single Mizuki or Ballardrock among them, apart from the one in our hand. We draw into Ogre Dance here, which is at least going to give us some maneuvers here. They're going to go Goes in Match and welcome Labyrinth. That is going to really hurt us here. They're going to summon out lovely Labyrinth. of the Silver Cancel here, popping our Zombie World, which again is very unfortunate. Vampire Sucker though, although this is the game where I learned Vampire Sucker has an entire effect that I haven't been using for years. So we're going to summon out the Chaos Ruler. He is going to pop it using Dogmatic Punishment. That is going to trigger off his field spell to summon out another Fiend. He's going to trigger his Lady Labyrinth to pop a card either on our field or in our hand, triggering off all of these cards in the graveyard. We decide, you know what, Keldo, you're going to get returning a bunch of these. We're going to bounce that Welcome Labyrinth back into his deck. We don't need him resetting it to the field. That's a real pain. We're going to recycle some of our own cards like Zombie World and such. Again, being able to recycle Zombie World is awesome. Lovely Labyrinth is going to pop the Ogre Dance. That's really bad. We really needed Ogre Dance to win the Foxy Tune here, so we're just going to have to see what we can do about it. Vampire Sucker bringing back a Labyrinth. We're giving him one back, because Vampire Sucker has an entire effect that I didn't know about. You can tribute zombies on your opponent's side of the field for the tribute summon of a zombie monster. So we just give him 2 zombies. Then we tribute both off for Ballardrock. That puts us in a really solid position because we can wipe out the Chaos Hunter. Now that the Chaos Hunter is gone, we can use the Banshee, banishing it from the graveyard, triggering off the Ballardrock to finally banish another monster. And we can finally get some ground going in this fight, getting rid of his Labyrinth so we can swing directly for 1600, as well as grabbing ourselves a Zombie World. So it is a bit of a back and forth here. We're definitely taking control of the game from this point on. However, the Welcome Labyrinth, it being a trap card, is such a pain because that just gets rid of our field spell so easily. But he's running out of good monsters to search for, grabbing his Ariana instead. Going into main phase 1, he's simply going to summon and set, which, you know, suits me just fine. That is absolutely grand. We still have our Ballardrock, but he's got... I've never seen this card before. Ichiroku's Ledger Book banishes 2 monsters on our field until the end of the turn, which is incredible because that triggers off his Ariana as well as his Labyrinth, which will, of course, get bombing and generating him advantage, which is insane. It also triggers off his Welcome Labyrinth. Look at the amount of advantage this guy gets every time he removes something with a trap card. This is insane. That is Chain Link 4 off of a single trap that already removed 2 of my cards. That is incredible. Labyrinth, once they get going, they're a hard one to stop, especially for a deck that specializes almost exclusively in dealing with monsters instead of trap cards. The Chaos Hunter coming back is a pain. Unfortunately, with that Chaos Hunter, we don't really have any plays we can make because it stops us from banishing cards. No Mizuki, no Banshee, no nothing. We can't use any of it right now. He is going to get rid of Ballardrock once more. Welcome Labyrinth, setting itself to the field again. We're sort of figuring at this point we have to change our approach. Luckily, we can resummon Ballardrock again this turn, drawing a card thanks to our Vampire Sucker, getting into Killback, which does open up a couple of options. He's going to go Nightmare Unicorn, though, to spin Ballardrock back to the deck to prevent it from recurring. Yet another problem. Going to take out Glow Up Bloom, then going to take out the Vampire Sucker. That's fine. Then they're going to attack us directly for 16. We still have plenty of life points. We're still in the game. We decided that we're going to take a bit of a different approach here. We're going to go Foolish Burial, and we're going to send Agido. We're sort of going along the lines of we sort of need to deck our opponent out a little bit here. We're going to go Agido into Killback, triggering off Killback on the field as well. We did make a bit of a mistake here. So there wasn't really a good target on his field to return back to hand because Chaos Hunter can resummon itself from the hand, and Ariana on normal summon can search a card. So we didn't really want any of those effects happening, so we figure we're going to bounce back the Unicorn. It's fine. That comes back to bite us later here. We're going to send another 5 cards from the top of the deck to the graveyard. Our opponent has 3 cards left, but one of the cards set face down is Terrors of the Overroot, setting Glow Up Bloom back to our field instead of allowing it to sit in the graveyard. So long as Chaos Hunter is here, we cannot banish cards. That is stopping so many of our effects. It stops our Glow Up Bloom, it stops our Banshee, stops Mizuki, stops Gozuki, stops Changxi. It stops so many of our cards, it is actually unreal. They're going to revive their lovely Labyrinth of the Silver Castle yet again. Going into their turn, their Labyrinth then is going to be able to reset a trap card from the grave. Ballardrock is going to come back thanks to their field spell. It still comes back. It doesn't have to be Zombie World. They're going to normal summon out another monster before going into the same Nightmare Unicorn that we bounced back to their deck. Really unfortunate here. Now they're going to be able to recycle Dogmatic Punishment, bouncing our Ballardrock back to the deck once more, taking out Glow Up Bloom, swinging in for 25, swinging in for 29. We're in a rough spot. I don't know really if there's anything we can draw that helps us counter a field like this. This is incredible, and the card we draw is, of course, Zombie World. leaving us completely powerless in the face of our opponent here. We are going to go into the opponent's turn, straight to battle, and there is game. It was a real back and forth match. It was a lot of fun. We got really unlucky at the very beginning where we didn't get any of our extenders engraved, like none of them. After milling 30-something cards, it was pretty unlucky, but that's the nature of it. I want to show that off, that even if you do resolve grass and even if you do whatever, you're not always going to win. Sometimes you're just going to get unlucky, and that I think is the biggest thing that separates this from having the same sort of quality and consistency as something like the Thunder Dragon variant, which does have bricks, don't get me wrong, but it is dramatically more consistent in my opinion. Either way, let's get into the deck profile. Already getting into the deck profile, we are going to try and turbo our way through this one just a little bit here. We're not playing that many staples. We're playing the triple Maxi, we're playing the triple Ash Blossom, we're playing double Cult by the Graves, just all in an effort to stop Maxi as best as possible, but again, ultimately it's not that big a deal. So play up to 60 cards, play whatever the hell you want, but at least bear in mind some of the considerations that I'm going to give you here. First of all, Glow Up Bloom, when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, banish it to add a level 5 or higher zombie from deck to hand, or if Zombie World is on your field, you can special summon it instead. It's here basically to summon out most of the time your Chang-Chi, but sometimes your Ballardrock. Chang-Chi is a very good special summon off of it. Mad Mauler, while in the graveyard, can reduce the level of a level 6 or higher monster you control by 2 in order to special summon itself out to the field. As a tuner, that can be pretty useful for bringing out the likes of the Immortal Dragon, of Felgrand, of whatever. Although, again, this card is definitely not mandatory. We've got Unizombie, one of the better starters in the deck. It can both discard a card and send a zombie from deck to graveyard once per turn, which allows you to put useful resources in your graveyard. It also boosts its level by 1 every time you do so, which means it can modulate its level for different various synchro summons, which can be very, very helpful. So do bear that in mind. Danger Jackalope. Danger Jackalope can, well, the same thing with all of the other dangers, they all can reveal themselves in hand. Your opponent picks a random card in your hand and discards it, and depending on whether or not it is the danger monster, you get different effects. If it is not the danger monster, then you get to special summon the danger monster and you draw a card. And that's the same across the board, but they all have a different effect that activates if it is the card that's discarded. Jackalope on this occasion allows you to special summon any danger monster from your deck in defense position. I'm going to very quickly cover the dangers while we're on the topic. Mothman, when discarded, will allow you to each player draws 1 card and then each player discards 1 card. Very, very helpful considering you love having things in the graveyard. Then you've got Nessie, that when discarded is going to add a danger monster from your deck to your hand, so it just helps you search. And Thunderbird, when discarded, will destroy a set card your opponent controls. Decent for removing back row, but it's definitely more here for its level. So all of the dangers have the same first effect, where if they activate, they reveal. If your opponent picks anything else, you just summon it and draw a card. It's only the effects that when discarded are different among them. So there you go. No Punk Xiamen. Xiamen, level 3 Psychic Tuner, which is first and foremost, it's your level 3 tuner, which is awesome. It can also pay 600 life points to search your deck for a Punk monster, which is almost always going to be Foxy Toon. And that starts your whole combo in terms of your Chaos Ruler, your Zombie Vampire play. That starts it all. So this card by itself will do that. Absolutely. So Xiamen, definitely max out on playing 3 of it in this particular variant. We've got 3 copies of Mizuki, can banish itself from the graveyard to revive any zombie in the grave. And remember, because of Zombie World, all of your monsters are zombies, which means it's basically a free monster reborn. It's not once per turn. So it's pretty solid whenever you mill a bunch of copies of it to the graveyard. Definitely pretty good. Necrobolt Banshee can banish itself from the field or graveyard to activate Zombie World directly from your deck, which is awesome. Just gives you extra copies of Zombie World. Then you've got Danger Mothman, we've already talked about. Then Keldo, the Secret Protector. Keldo and Midora are lumped into the same category in this. They can both discard an Earth Fairy to special summon themselves out to the field. Whenever Keldo does so, he will search your deck for another one of your Earth Fairies. And then they can both remove themselves from the graveyard or the field to target up to 3 cards in either player's graveyard and return them back to the deck. So not only is it great for controlling the resources available to your opponent in their graveyard, returning key cards back to their deck, it also helps you recycle some of your key cards, such as Zombie World, such as your Glow Up Bloom on occasion, just some of these monsters that you want to basically remake use of. Then Kelbeck and Agido are also lumped into the same category. Kelbeck and Agido, each when sent to the graveyard from the hand or the deck, will mill out 5 additional cards from your deck to the graveyard, so they are phenomenal at generating advantage, because you just want as many cards in the graveyard as you can get. You want to see Mizuki in the grave, you want to see your Banshee, you want to see your Ballardrock, you want to see your Chang-Chi, you want to see all of these cards in the graveyard so you can utilize their effects. Deer Note is here, just playing it at 1 to be special summoned from the deck off of Foxy Toon's effect, or to special summon itself from hand using its own effect. So you can reveal this card and another Punk monster, you will discard 1 to special summon the other. So normally you're going to summon Deer Note, and this is a key integral part of the play, because Deer Note will also, when sent from the field to the graveyard, will special summon back any Punk monster from the grave, so long as it's not a level 5. Basically what you'll normally do is you'll have Xiamen and Deer Note on the field, you'll Synchro Summon into the Chaos Ruler to give you a level 8 Synchro, milling out an extra 5 cards, and your Deer Note is going to revive one of your level 8 Punks in order to summon itself back to the field. It'll revive one of your level 8 Punks, which will then let you do level 8 Exceed play. So definitely integral part of the deck, but you really only need to play 1. And I know in this 60 card version, a lot of people will be wondering, well, what if you mill it? Well, you just return it back. Keldo and Midora. Like, that's the magic. Any card you hit that you don't want to be in the graveyard, you just send it back. It's easy. Then you've got Chang-Chi, the Spiridao. Basically, once per turn while face up, you can send a zombie from your deck to the graveyard, and if it's banished, you can banish another zombie from your grave to special summon it back to the field. Really good extender. Very good summon target off of your Glow Up Bloom, so definitely I would say a 1 of. And then we got our Danger Nessie, of course, going into Ballardrock. Ballardrock is basically your boss monster for this deck, right? So long as there is a face-up field spell on the field, doesn't matter if it's yours or your opponent's, you can special summon this from your graveyard back to your field during the standby phase. It has 2 effects. One, when a zombie activates its effect, negate that effect, or when a zombie activates its effect, banish a monster on the field or in the graveyards. You can use both effects once per turn each. Which is really, really awesome. So basically 2 interruptions baked into 1. We play 2 copies of it because your opponent will be trying to remove this from your graveyard with Cult by the Grave. They will attempt to banish it, they will attempt to bounce it, to spin it, they will do everything except send this to the graveyard, so you will often rely upon having a second. Thunderbird we've already talked about. Then Foxy Toon and Ogre Dance are pretty similar cards. Foxy Toon will discard itself as well as another card in your hand in order to special summon out a non-level 8 Punk from the deck, so you're almost always going to be summoning Xiamen. If you already have Xiamen, then you're going to summon Deer Note. Ogre Dance, on the other hand, will discard just itself to search your deck for any non-level 8 Punk. So Ogre Dance will add Xiamen to the hand, but you don't need to discard any other cards. So it's not as if one is innately better than the other. Foxy Toon is better if you have already used your normal summon, or if you have another monster you want to normal summon. Ogre Dance is really good if you don't mind using your normal summon on Xiamen. So both are definitely very good. Max out on both because you want to be seeing this as much as you possibly can. This is a 60 card deck, so you're going to be seeing the regular cards less often. So you need to maximize your amount of starter cards as you possibly can. Then we got Foolish Burial, of course, send in any card in your deck to the graveyard. Normally one of your Earth Fairies just to get milling, but sometimes you have a specific sort of itch you need to scratch, like you need Zombie World, you need a Monster Reborn, you need your Ballardrock. Basically, Foolish Burial is the god card of the deck, absolutely. Left Arm Offering and That Grass Looks Greener, I'm going to lump into one category. Left Arm Offering, basically you banish your entire hand to search your deck for any spell card. You're going to search for That Grass Looks Greener. That Grass Looks Greener will send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard until your deck size matches your opponent's. As you're playing a 60 card deck, ideally, you're going to be sending up to 20 cards from your deck to the graveyard, and if you're going second, sometimes significantly more. Of course, sometimes less, it depends on when you get access to it, but this card is basically the card that makes 60 card decks worth playing. If this card was banned, 60 card decks would be awful. But yeah, you can play this. It basically just mills a ton of cards, generates you a bunch of advantage. Generally, it's seen as a bit of a... It's generally seen as pretty broken, but at the same time, the reason it's somewhat balanced is because when you're playing a 60 card deck, you need to draw into it. That's why we're playing Left Arm Offering, to get it more commonly. That's why we're playing Dangers, to draw more cards so we can see it more often. Yeah, generally really solid card. We're playing double zombie world. You can play 3 if you want. I think 2 is absolutely fine because you can get it off of your Banshee all the time. And unlike before, where we were worried about going through all our copies of it, our Medora and Keldo can now return it back to the deck. So we can recycle it, which is awesome. So I think 2 copies is just fine. Considering it's a free-to-play card though, you can definitely play 3, but there's no need. And finally, we have Emergency Teleport, which will summon Xiamen directly from your deck, so you can get playing. Basically, just a phenomenal extender. Emergency Teleport is awesome. That is the entire main deck. In terms of the last 8 cards, like I said, I'm literally just playing a bunch of cards to help counter Max C. And what you do with those 10 slots, go nuts. You can even play more hand traps, you can play Evenly Matched, some Lightning Storm, you do whatever. You know, that's entirely up to you. Getting into the extra deck then, we've just got some generic sort of synchro stuff going on. We've got the level 6 Immortal Dragon, which is kind of nice. You're not going to summon it very often, but you can summon it because you're playing the Danger Jackalopes on a bunch of different level 3s. So it's not exactly impossible, but you'll not be seeing it a lot. While it's on the field, you can send a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, and this card's level becomes the difference between its original level and the level of the monster that you sent to the graveyard. So if you send a level 4 or a level 8, which will be the 2 typically you'll send, it will become a level 2. If you send a Mad Mauler, it becomes a level 4. That's realistically the only 2 scenarios you're going to be in. The Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. A Black Rose Moonlight Dragon on summon, or when your opponent special summons a level 5 or higher monster, get to bounce a card on their field back to the hand. Really solid, generic level 7 synchro. Then Chaos Ruler, an integral part of your combo. When summoned, will send the top 5 cards of your deck to the graveyard. You can add a light or a dark among them from them to your hand, basically. It can also revive itself by banishing a light and a dark from the graveyard, so this card is phenomenal. The Skeletal Dragon Felgrand acts as a backup level 8 synchro monster. When summoned, you can target a monster your opponent controls or that's in their graveyard and banish it. And if another monster is summoned from the graveyard while this card is face up, you can negate the effects of a monster in the field. So it's a decent enough card. Baron de Fleur, generic level 10 synchro. Omni negate while on the field, plus once per turn pop a card. Self-explanatory, really. The Psychic End Punisher, you need to have this guy in just as a level 11 filler. 3500 attack so long as your life points are less than your opponent's. He's unaffected by card effects. Once per turn, pay 1000 life points to banish one of your monsters and a card your opponent controls. Really, really good. And at the start of every battle phase, you can have him gain attack points equal to the difference between the both players' life points, and that is a permanent stack. This guy becomes a pretty nasty monster. Then into Exceeds, we've got Abyss Dweller, generic level 4 Exceed, negates the effects of all cards in your opponent's graveyard or prevents them from activating, which is very useful considering you're sending a bunch of cards in their deck to the graveyard. So Abyss Dweller, I think you definitely need to play as a generic rank 4. Then you've got your rank 8s, your Hope Harbinger and your Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, Spell Negate, Monster Negate, as simple as that. The Zombie Vampire, once per turn, detach material, send the top 4 cards of both players' deck to the graveyard. You can choose any monster among them and summon it to your field. So a really, really awesome extender, putting even more resources in grave while also reviving a monster back to your field. Lingeribo is here to get rid of Ibli. Your opponent playing sprites, they're going to try and summon Ibli to your field. This is here to get rid of it. That's it. Vampire Sucker, level 2 generic sort of, a link to generic sort of monster. Whenever a monster is summoned from the graveyard, once per turn you get to draw a card, plus you can revive a monster from your opponent's graveyard to their field, which can manually trigger that effect. But the reason that's sometimes useful is if you ever go to tribute summon a zombie, you can also tribute zombies on your opponent's field, which is pretty awesome. That means that if you have Zombie World up, you can simply tribute 2 of their monsters for your Balerdrock, or you can tribute 1 of them for your Chang-Chi. Pretty awesome. It comes up here and there. Masquerina, generic link 2. Use its effect to link summon during your opponent's turn, and the monster you summon cannot be destroyed by card effects. Pretty solid, especially in combination with Nightmare Unicorn, where on summon you can discard a card to spin a card on your opponent's field back into the deck. And finally, the generic link 4 that we're playing, Apollousa, Bow of the Goddess. You can flood your field easily enough. On occasion, you may want to be going into a 24 or 3200 attack Apollousa to just negate a whole bunch of monster effects. And that is the deck. It's a bit of a long one. I guess we went through it fairly quickly there, but most of the cards are fairly self-explanatory. Let's be honest, it's not that complicated. Just throw a bunch of cards into the graveyard and then combo like crazy. If you watch the gameplay, you know what the combo lines are. We showed them off pretty well. It circles mostly around your P.U.N.K cards, and then your P.U.N.K cards sort of facilitate the rest of the deck around them. Your dangers are here just to draw a bunch of cards. Your zombies are here to get extending, to sort of get your boss monsters out with your Ballardrock. It's a good time. It really is. It's a very, very solid deck. Definitely not the best deck in the world, and I feel like the Ishizu support hurts it just as much as it helps it. Definitely a very interesting situation to be in, but again, you guys can tell me your thoughts down below, or if you want to hop into the Discord if you have any better ideas, any suggestions, anything you want to change, or generally if you just want to get involved with the community a little bit more, the link is in the description below as well. And with that, I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye!